Let's get the mailbag questions. First one comes from Razer, who asks,
Razer.
to be excited for Lou
Amazing
Anarumo, given how bad Cincinnati's defense was. Lou Anarumo, the Colts. What do we think?
I actually like this. I think people tend to forget. Just a couple of years ago, Lou Anarumo was probably considered a hot coaching candidate.
He was Mahomes' Achilles heel.
Exactly. Like that team, and people, because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and them are there, they tend to forget that defense kind of led them on that Super Bowl run, right? It wasn't the offense. So Joe Burrow was getting sacked like 70 times that year.
Yep.
So I love this. Sometimes you just need fresh blood. Me and Mike actually did a breakdown earlier this year, and we talked about why the Bengals have struggled on defense. One, because they've missed in some draft picks, but they've also missed in free agency. But if you look at it, a significant amount of money is paid on the offensive side. So at least he's going to have DeForest Buckner, right? He's going to have Kenny Moore. He's going to have Zaire Franklin. He's going to have a guy at each level that plays at a high level. Latu will be going into his second year. So I love this move for the Colts for sure.
I do too. And I think the one thing is you're going from a fairly simplistic Gus Bradley scheme to one that was, Lou Anarumo does a lot.
He does.
Like, they will do a ton of different stuff on the defense side of the ball. They are not known for, any single coverage the way, some DCs are, the way Gus Bradley was. So that's going to be different. And from a personnel standpoint, they'll obviously change things, but they have a lot of turnover or going to need a lot of turnover in their secondary to begin with. I think this bodes really well, though, for Nick Cross, the safety. Obviously, the Bengals defense, with being as multiple as they are under Lou Anarumo, really featured those safeties. When they had good ones, it was great. When they had bad ones, it was scary. Nick Cross, I think, is the star in the making, and I think you'll be awesome.
Go listen to a guy who knows the Cincinnati Bengals defense as well as anybody, Travis Kelce, talk about the firing of Lou Anarumo. He was beside himself on the New Heights podcast. Like, really? What are you doing getting rid of this guy?
This has been the one guy that's been our bugaboo.
So for the Colts, you got to be excited.
Yep. All right, next one comes from Rod Munch. I'm the Lions 1 year from now, January 21.
Comes up with these names.
2026.
That's hilarious.
Rod Munch.
How are things looking for us?
That's a good question.
Hey, let me just tell you what. Dan Campbell is a fantastic football coach, and I have no doubt that guys will buy in. I also have no doubt that there are quality control and assistant coaches who have retained as much information as possible from Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I'm less concerned about the defensive side of the ball, obviously, because you're going to get a lot of these guys back in terms of your front seven. You're going to get that the teeth back to your defense with Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil. But Ben Johnson and the lack of creativity on offense will be a hole that is going to be difficult to fill, regardless of the talent pool, the offensive line, the receivers you have. He gets a lot of guys schemed up.
Yeah, Kyle, to your point, I don't even think we can begin to fathom what the Lions will look like, because once you lose both coordinators, they like to pluck from the current roster, right? So does Mark Brunell leave and become offensive coordinator for Aaron Glenn, or does he stay, right? Does Aaron Glenn take their linebacker coach, Kelvin Shepard, and make him the defensive coordinator? Supposedly there's rumors that Aaron Glenn would like a former head coach to be the defensive coordinator. That's why Steve Wilkes' name is
Dennis Allen.
Makes a lot of sense, right? Dennis Allen already took the job. Chicago.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. No, you're saying guys that had former. Yeah, exactly.
Johnson took him. He's never been a head coach.
You want somebody that's been a head coach before.
It reminds me of Vic Fangio and Matt Nagy.
Correct.
First time head coach with a long time DC that's got the head coach pedigree.
Yep. I got another one for you. Sean McVay, Wade Phillips. That was a really good one.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what the Lions actually look like, because they already lost their D-line coach. He's the defensive coordinator now in New England because he was with Vrabel in Tennessee. So his guys are getting plucked left and right. And we saw this play out with the Philadelphia Eagles after they went to the Super Bowl, right? Now, again, that team started off 10-1 and still made it to the playoffs, but it kind of fell apart. And the NFL is just an acclimation period. When you start losing coordinators, and we see San Francisco kind of hasn't recovered after losing DeMeco Ryans. Now, they were just blessed after Saleh left that DeMeco Ryans was on staff and they were able to elevate him, but they haven't been able to kind of replace that guy on that side of the room. Yet their defense still plays well, because we always talk about it's the Jimmy and the Joes, right? And that's what the Lions have. And they have the Jimmy and the Joes.
They had more Jimmys and Joes, too, in San Francisco. DeForest Buckner, young. Eric Armstead, young.
Correct.
I mean, that group was...
They were stacked.
Yeah.
So, I think the Lions, from a personnel point, they're going to be fine, regardless, whoever the coordinator is. Will they be at the level they were with Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn? Is to be determined. That's the question.
It's going to be difficult to replicate. But I will say, they're as talented as
They'll
anyone.
be just fine.
Yeah, they have the personnel, man.
Then this one's a follow-up about Detroit. They said, do you think Detroit has a starter level opening on their roster? Should teams use a first-round pick on developmental or non-starters? When is it appropriate? They definitely do.
I was about to say, got a couple.
Both guard positions.
I was about to say, yeah.
That might be it, though. I mean, defensively,
Well, if they lose Kirby Joseph,
he's not free agent yet.
I thought he is this year.
No. Carlton Davis is.
Yeah, I know Carlton Davis is.
They drafted Carlton Davis, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Derek Barnes, Marcus Davenport, Levi Muzurike. There's a bunch, like half of the defense, but it's mostly secondary or second backups that are.
Wow. Breaking news here. Liam Coen removes himself from consideration for the Jaguars head coaching job. Will sign a new coordinator deal.
What did Baker offer him?
Yeah.
What did Baker offer him?
That's awesome.
That's great for Bucs.
Bad news for the Ravens.
Oh, it's bad news for the Jags. Oh, my God. Oh, you're right. Kirby does have one more year.
So great news for Bucs fans. And
wow.
That might mean head coach in waiting, sort of. Todd Bowles.
That could
planning to retire in a few years.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though.
Very.
Because Todd Bowles has been great. I mean, his teams overperform.
I think this is a scenario that Liam Coen sat back, watched Ben Johnson kind of really gain traction by turning down 2 years of potentially leaving to be a head coach, because maybe the jobs that are currently out there he doesn't feel are a great fit for him. So he feels like he's got Baker Mayfield, he's got Mike Evans. We'll see what they do with Chris Godwin. They have a system with three-headed monster at running back now. I think Rashad White is going to be a free agent this year, but you still got Tucker and Bucky Irvin, and he has a really good offensive line. He's like, why would I leave this for a job where I don't know it's going to be, up in the air?
He's just trying to figure out what works in that.
Correct, right? So, I mean, kudos to him, but that's the only thing. We talked about this before. Like, Lou Anarumo was a hot candidate, didn't get a job, and then next thing you know, he's fired as a defensive coordinator. So sometimes when you have an opportunity to take a head coaching job, you don't want to take anyone, right? Because, again, having a bad showing at head coach could derail you in the future. But kudos to Liam Coen for deciding he wanted to stay.
Turning down nearly $13 million a year.
I would say the Jags probably had to offer him at least 10.
They definitely did. And they rightfully should have.
No sales tax?
Exception for that.
No income tax?
Yeah, exactly.
Sales tax. Jacksonville is saying. But,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Jacksonville.
Imagine what that number is.
Yeah, for both teams, Raiders and Jacksonville, would have been good.
Man, oh man. Mark Davis is pissed. He's cutting that hair pissed off today. God damn.
Who's going to be? Pete Carroll is, it looks like.
Yeah.
So to get back to Cap and Buccaneers' secondary questions, he said, when should a team use first-round picks on developmental or non-starters? I mean, I don't think just because you have a guard need, you're like best guard available in the first round, right? If you're the Detroit Lions.
Get a mid-round guy.
Crazy. I think it's a crazy way to approach the draft because that's how you end up passing on just good players.
Correct. What's Taylor Decker's future look like?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously if there's
age.
a lot, like last year's class, there was a zillion first-round grades they gave out at offensive tackle or interior offensive line.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, then you're going to have value because there's too many of them. Not everyone's going to pick them. So, I do think that there's years where it makes sense, but you still have to. I mean, your first-round pick, you can pick developmental guys, but I don't like taking developmental guys at non-premium positions. So that's take developmental quarterbacks, take developmental offensive tackles, take developmental edge rushers.
Edge guys, yeah.
That's probably it. Like if a guy's developmental wide receiver, that should scare you. If a guy's developmental cornerback, that should scare you.
Yeah.
Those are the.
You're saying guard's not a premier position?
Not that I take a developmental guy in the first round because you can find them in the third and fourth round.
Yeah.
That's more what I'm saying.
That's why I thought I was going to be a third round guy because I was that developmental guy. But I got lucky because I had a great coach. Yeah. I had a great coach, and I went into a room with three other guys, and Jermon Bushrod was a 10-year player, Roberto Garza, a 13-year player, Matt Slauson, 8 or 9 year player.
Yeah.
That's not every room in the NFL.
Correct.
But to the Detroit conversation,
that would be their room.
You've got guys
that would be their room.
They'd be like, no, we can protect you with our calls and with the techniques you'll learn.
I wonder what Mike thinks about this one because this guy can kick outside and did for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Oh, Donovan Jackson.
That late in the first round, it makes a lot of sense. A guy that can start from day one at guard, and if Decker were to leave the following year, he can swing out there.
Man, I've had him as my third ranked offensive lineman for like the last 3 months, even before he really started showing out offensive tackle, just because I love what I saw from him at guard.
I think, and the thing is, he feels like a Detroit Lion too.
Yeah,
I gotta watch this guy.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
Watch them both at guard and at tackle.
Okay.
Yeah. You gotta go to last year for y'all.
Next one here comes from Robbie. He says, do you have any individual plays that stand out in your mind as the best, most memorable? I assume this is to you, Kyle, because it was. Yes. Bonus points if you can pull up an all 22 clip.
Do that one for you, right?
We were on like the plus 25 at Soldier Field one time, and my favorite play type was mid zone away from me, because obviously the front side blocks get the play started, but as the right guard on a, let's say 39, if I can get to the second level and get that linebacker blocked up or dominated or get to the safety or MDM, whoever it is, those are the plays that end up becoming touchdowns. I don't remember exactly what happened on this play, but I caught AJ Hawk in a bad spot on the backside, and I took him all the way to the wall. And he still hates me for it. I went on the McAfee show, and he was like, "You
blindsided him."
Like we were both, I was taking an angle, a 45-degree angle, to go make a cutoff block. He was trying to figure out to go over the top underneath.
Back door.
And I got him underneath, and I just tried to Michael Orr blind.
That's what I'm saying. I
tried to take him to the wall. And I remember I was on the McAfee show, and he was like, giving me shit about it.
Yeah.
But that was a play that I remember. And most of the plays that I do remember were horrible plays that, you remember the bad ones, right?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that keep you up at night. Julius Peppers swiping your hands and, converting a speed rush to an underneath rush and getting a sack. These things you want back. But yeah, I mean, any play where we were in 4 minute where I turn to the sideline and I say, run it behind me. And Bobby Massey, my right tackle, was like, hell yeah, run that shit again. Run it again. We'd be doing this again. So yeah, any 4 minute drive where the Bears won means that we got our blocks done the right way.
Next up, best Jay Cutler stories. Some comes from Caleb Wiley. They can tell on
so
appropriate.
You know what?
They're not actually.
I'm going to tell this story. Okay. So I was never very good with the ladies. Jay Cutler, pretty smooth with the ladies. Yeah, I'll tell you. That. He's done a good job. And it was my rookie year or my second year. And I remember he would always be like, let me see your phone. And I'd be like, okay. And he would be like, which do you know what to say to this girl? She obviously, she liked all your pictures. She did this and that. So I would give Jay my phone, and he would type up messages for me. He was like living vicariously through me. So that's one story. But one night, we all went out, and a bunch of us ended up back at my house, and Jay went home because he was a dad, you know what I'm saying? And the next morning I woke up to Jay had broken into my house with his two sons and woke me up just to see the aftermath of
that's hilarious.
And I'm talking like 7:30 a.m. before we got to go work out or something. Jay as a teammate, I always loved. He was tougher than shit. He was so talented and so much fun to watch play. But Jay off the field is the guy that I wish people would have experienced more, because I feel like they'd have a better appreciation for him. Obviously, you hear a lot of people in the media talk about he wasn't a great teammate, blah, blah, blah. He just wasn't for that. That kind of leadership wasn't for him. His leadership was like, no. When I tuck the football and run for the first down, I'm going to get the first down and I'm going to light somebody up. And when Brandon does come open, I'm going to put the ball right between his numbers. That's the leadership that spoke to me. But he was, he was a great veteran to me. I think he understood that if I was in the building, he was going to be safer than if I wasn't in the building. Yeah. So he made sure that I was on time. And I can remember a number of times he'd show up at like 6:30 a.m. at my house. He'd drive across town to wake me up to make sure that I was up for lifts. Jay, good dude.
All right, next one comes from Josh King. He asks, is Abdul Carter is the best edge prospect since who? I think Will Anderson was probably the best edge prospect since Chase Young, who was probably the best edge prospect since Myles Garrett. And then I don't know if I've seen a better edge prospect.
Chase Young.
So
freakish prospect,
dude.
Or
the Jadeveon Clowney.
Is he better than Will Anderson?
It's weird, right? Because when you look at it, and I know people will get this connotation because of the number 11 at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
People couldn't figure out if Michael Parsons was going to be a linebacker or an edge guy coming out either because he was such a freak athlete, just like Abdul Carter. Like, this is his first year literally playing specifically in. He's been an inside linebacker. So the crazy thing is and I think that's why everybody's so high on him. You just don't know what his upside is. And after seeing what Michael Parsons did, and they're kind of built the same way and they have the same freakish athletic tools, that's why I think everybody's so high on him because of what Micah did essentially. And I guarantee most teams, if they could go back, I think Micah went with 11. I think he would have probably went top 3 or 4.
Oh yeah.
If they would have knew what they do now. Right. So I think that's what pushes Abdul Carter up. So I don't know if he was, because the production that Will Anderson had like at Bama for 3 straight years was out of this world in the SEC when the SEC was the SEC.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Back when they were the only ones getting paid.
Correct. Like what you did there.
Alabama Jones getting real serious.
The bag there.
Hey, good game, son.
Exactly. So, I mean, like from that standpoint, I'm with you, Mike. Like, just because we don't know what his ceiling is, he probably is the best since Will Anderson. I would have leaned towards Will because we go back to this all the time, right? The exception in the rule. Like, we've seen Will Anderson do it for multiple years.
Yeah.
Where Abdul Carter, you've seen him be a really good linebacker, and we saw him be elite at the edge this year, but this was the only year we saw him on the edge.
I tend to think Abdul Carter's got a higher ceiling.
I think he has a higher ceiling for sure. Yeah.
He's a freak show.
Yeah.
Just as like a true rush the passer guy, I would take Abdul Carter. Will Anderson, more complete edge. He did it for 3 years, right? Yeah. He was true freshman starter at Alabama. So it's different sort of apples to oranges, but
can't lead with his helmet as much.
Scouting is not what you've done. It's what you could be. So I'd probably lean Carter. I think I'd probably still go not a better prospect than Chase Young, though. That guy was so good his last year at Ohio State. Yeah. So good as a rookie.
He was too good.
Truly never, I don't know what happened with him, but
you enjoy that kind of success, and like I don't know.
It might be, honestly. Some just like
he just had the injury bug.
That's the Cloudy effect, dude.
Yeah. But definitely
just
Myles
too
Garrett.
good.
I think Myles Garrett was even like a better prospect than Cloudy. Myles
Garrett was a freak.
Myles Garrett may be the best guy at his job in the National Football League.
I don't even think it's close.
Right? I mean, am I crazy in saying that? Like, we know Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT, but like Myles Garrett is better at his job
position by position
than anybody else in the league is good. Maybe Sean McVay or something like that.
You know what's so freakish too about that is like Von Miller came out a few years ago before that, and nobody thought that anybody would be like Von Miller, and then Myles Garrett, the alien,
same school,
nowhere, same school,
at 272 pounds.
Because he was like freak, yo, like.
Yeah. And then you watch him play basketball, and it's
windmilling.
Like, what the hell, bro?
Like Coach said, that ain't nothing but God and your parents.
Mom, dad, and God.
Exactly.
Hey, I had a coach who would be like, "Did you thank him today?" And I'd be like, "Who's that coach?" Mom, dad, and God.
Facts.
There is a guy, though, true freshman in South Carolina named Dylan Stewart, who's the closest thing I've seen. Because Myles Garrett's freshman year at Texas A&M.
Dylan Stewart is the name.
Yeah.
Dylan Stewart is
in 2 years from now. Oh my God.
He could be that.
These kids are just eating different now.
Man.